We're live. What's going on? Good morning. Hope everyone's having a great morning. To those of you that are watching this live, I say kudos to you, right? 6:30 in the morning. I wanted to get in this quick podcast before jumping into my workout and then on back-to-back calls today. But today, I wanted to talk about, from Patty's request, how to prioritize your own needs as an RN and eliminate guilt. So that's the name of the game today. And I have my notes, so I'm going to try to stick pretty much to them. But if you know anything about me, passionate guy, I tend to go on a couple tangents here and there, which is totally fine. Hopefully you are game for that. So podcast 3, how to prioritize your own needs as an RN and eliminate guilt. Something that Patty said herself is, myself and the nurses I know overcommit to constantly help others and feel guilty when we don't meet others' expectations. So how can we go about solving that, which is a worthwhile objective, right? Because if you're thinking about being able to have sustainability, we really need to not only make sure we have the right fitness and nutrition, right? Maybe some accountability. We have to make sure that these internal emotions are aligned with who we want to become, right? I'll say that one more time. We have to make sure that the emotions that we are experiencing are aligned with the person we want to become, because number one, the person we become, that's your identity, right? You will always act in accordance with your beliefs and how you view yourself. So one of the big things that we're doing with all of our clients as we work together on a one-on-one environment is we are forming a new identity over time. And I know that might seem heavy, but it's small actions, right? Who you are today is based upon the evidence that you have to stack who I am today. For example, are you a kind person? Are you a considerate person? Are you a wealthy person? Are you a friendly person? Are you an achiever? Are you whatever? Are you a mother? Are you happy? Whatever. All the evidence you have promotes the person that you are, and that is usually what we're doing every day. Dang, we got 2 viewers at 6:40 in the morning. God dang, this is crazy. Okay, I'm gonna keep going though. Feel free to drop a comment too. Let me know you're here, even if you're watching this on the recording. So that's number one, right? We have to form a new identity, and we're going to get to that in a second. But if we think about how to start really prioritizing our own needs, we have to, number one, understand why we are maybe acting in accordance in this way. Good morning. Good to see you. We have to understand, right? So the way that I like to describe this is it's our model of the world, right? Our belief structure at this point and the way that we conduct that type of behavior where we're prioritizing others, we're not prioritizing ourselves, that has been a behavior and a piece of our identity that's been reinforced over time. If you can think of it, I like to call it a model of the world. So for some reason, we grew up being rewarded for this type of behavior, and now it's reinforced. Think about how behaviors come into play. Either we do a behavior and we are reinforced for that behavior positively, we are praised, we are rewarded, and that happens again and again and again and again until now it becomes something solid, right? Or there was somebody that we admired that also had this characteristic and we wanted to be like them, so it became a part of us. Now, I will say that this is, like, objectively not a bad characteristic to be willing to sacrifice yourself for somebody else. Now, big caveat here. It has to be within either two ways, right? It has to be short term, or the amount that you're willing to sacrifice is a lot less for long term. Because if we are constantly sacrificing ourself for somebody else, always a couple things will happen, right? And that you already know and you're probably experiencing if you're still listening, right? So we're going to dive into that a little bit as well. I'm doing my best to stick to my notes so that this doesn't become an hour podcast. So the problem when it comes down to uh, reshaping this, or not even before we get to reshaping. The problem is it causes an internal conflict because we know we want to be able to prioritize our own needs because we have this idea of who we want to become, which is like, I want to be fit, I want to be healthy, I want to prioritize my own needs. But at the same time, that conflict is at war with, but I also, want to be able to give to everybody else and make sure all their needs are met all the time and whatever. So these two things conflict. How do we solve it? Right? There's a couple ways we can solve it. The first way is we can align our current belief structures and recognize that by prioritizing yourself, you'll actually help more people. Here's what I mean. It's harder to go to the core, which this is what we do with our clients. If we find it's necessary, we go to the core. But before we go to the core, we see if we can just align these existing belief structures with the new thing. Here's what I mean. If you are prioritizing your own needs as an if you are sacrificing your own needs to help others as an RN, as a mother, so on, then you believe on some level that you feel better when you help others, right? And like, these are the logic hurdles we jump over, right? So I'll give you kind of an idea of the logic hurdles. So it's like, okay, if you believe this, then this is also true, correct? So if you're willing to sacrifice yourself for this thing, then obviously you hold value to helping others get to where they need to be. So you put value in making sure other people are taken care of. Yes? And you can answer with me. Yes, right? Okay. Now, do you believe that that there's a varying level of how you can help them? Meaning, you can help someone a little bit or help somebody a lot. Like, it's not just like equal inputs to output. It's not always like 5 minutes equals a certain amount of output. It's by, depending on how I'm helping them and to the degree I can help them will determine the output. Yes? Yes. Cool. So let's look at a real life situation. What are some of the things that you will do to prioritize them over you? And it's like, okay, well, I'll prioritize I'll, help somebody by, let's say, okay, I'll help my kids. That's a good one. My kids need help. I'll help my kids. It's like, okay, totally understand that. And how often are you helping your kids? And we look at the numbers and it's like they're spending maybe 12 hours a week with their kids. I'm making this up. 12 hours a week with their kids. Okay, cool. And right now, how do you feel when you're with your kids? Like, this is your baseline. You told me that your energy is a 2 or a 3. You told me that, your excitement for life, your energy is like a 4. Okay. How are you showing up as a mother for your kids during these 12 hours? Do you put it on for them? Like, do you essentially lie to their face and say like, and show them like, mom's got no issues, mom's great. You pretend to be a 10, but you're really a 4 inside. Or do you feel like at some level that spills through? And of course it spills through. Like, okay, cool. Question. Would you prefer to be a shell of yourself for your kids, being potentially less patient? And again, I'm kind of abridging all this. I wouldn't be saying these things. It's more like, and then you ask another question. What do you think will happen? Right now, if you're showing up as a 4 for energy and a 2 for patience, how are you showing up for your kids? And it's like, well, and this, and then we start connecting pain to it, right? Because if we're going to change, reshaping belief structures, which kind of goes to the third point, we need to connect massive pain to your old beliefs and connect massive pleasure to the new beliefs reinforced by evidence. So this is kind of like cognitive behavioral therapy in a sense. Not quite. It's kind of like a stem of it, you could say. So we connect massive pain to the point that, okay, you are essentially robbing from your children by not prioritizing your own needs, because that's like the roundabout. That's as we're wrapping this up where we get to. Because when you are not prioritizing yourself, and this is all question-based framework. So it's more like, cool, we get all this done. I'm told that when you are around your kids, you feel that you are providing, an energy that's lower than it could be, and you're providing, a level of patience that's lower than it could be, and all these reasons. And right now, do you feel like on some level that you could be robbing from your kids? And it's like, I never thought of it that way. Yeah. So what we're starting to connect is there is pain to you not changing. Now, everyone's different. As a coach, what we have to figure out is what is the main thing that is the most painful for you. And I know that sounds crazy because it's like we don't want to cause people pain, we want to get them out of pain. But this is short-term pain for long-term pleasure. If you can identify massive pain to your current way of life, then you will change, right? And then it's just keeping that there. So if you can connect massive pain to what you're doing now, then you will change, right? It's the reason that people get started in the first place, because they connect massive pain to where they are and they connect massive pleasure to where they're going. And that is enough to be able to say, okay, I'm doing this, right? But anyway, so we identify that what your current way of life creates massive pain, right, in that context. And then we create massive pleasure to the alternative. Okay, so tell me this. When you are able to take care of yourself, and let's say that you're prioritizing your sleep, let's say that instead of being with your kids 12 hours a week, you're with them for 10, because the 60 minutes or 30 minutes 3 times a week that you're afraid of taking away from them because you don't want to be viewed as a bad mother, which is really at the core of the pain, which we can leverage, is the worst thing in the world to you. Okay, I get it. Do you think that taking those, hour and a half, that 2 hours away from your kids to be able to show up as twice or 3 times the mother you are today would be beneficial? It's like, would that be worth it? And you have to answer that question. If the answer is yes, rock and roll, right? So we have to connect massive pain to what you're currently doing, massive pleasure to where you're going. This is how we create long-term change. Now, of course, this is just to get you going. Once you are going, you're reinforced by new evidence. So for example, this would be called a hypothesis, right? Okay, hey, if we take this action, we're going to get a desired result. What happens is you test and iterate. You took the action. How did you feel with your family? Were you more patient? Did you have more energy? Or maybe you just don't like your kids. No, I'm just kidding. It's a joke. But was it better? Oh my God, it's so much better. I feel like I did when I whatever. Great. Do you think we could keep doing this? Yeah. Okay, awesome. So this is really, it's funny because when I talk to people about transformation, on the surface, it's fitness, nutrition, accountability. But I say, look, the difference between us and maybe any other coach is going to be in the execution. We know what to give you right when you need it, depending on what you need, right? And that's why all the coaches I bring on have, decades of experience, because they know this stuff. They know how to get somebody out of their rut, right? And it's more than just okay, cool. Did you do your fitness this week? Oh, you didn't? Oh man, well, you gotta want it more. It's like, no, there's something inside that has to be solved, right? When you can align the person you want to be, a new identity, with your existing belief framework, you win. Or if your existing belief framework isn't aligned with this new identity, we can change that too. But that takes time. This is why this is not like a, 24-hour program, right? Because we have to uncover these things together. And then another part of it too is do you really feel comfortable maybe on your first call to tell all this stuff? No, maybe not. But after you build a little rapport in a few weeks, maybe you're a little more open and we can make some real change. So I talked about a lot today, and to be honest, these notes did not help me at all because I was still bouncing around all over the place. And I haven't even had any caffeine yet today. But let's recap really quickly. So first thing, if we're looking to prioritize your own needs as an RN and eliminate guilt, first thing we need to do is understand why we feel guilty, right? And it's usually because of the existing belief structures that we have, the model of the world. For some reason, we have been reinforced for this type of behavior, which is very common among nurses, right? We sacrifice, we give, we sacrifice ourselves for others. So what we have to do is solve this internal conflict. The conflict that is pulling between who you want to be, right? and maybe what you currently believe. And who you want to be is fit, and a fit person sleeps, they exercise in some level, and they eat to fuel their body in a way that will help them create their ideal body. Now, those actions have to be aligned with with our identity and what we believe is altruist, or aligned with what we believe is right. So what I'm here to tell you really quick, the most basic level to solve that, which I've already said, but I want to reinforce it, is just to know that when you take care of yourself, you can take care of others better. And that is not like that is like real evidence that you can easily reinforce. And you look for the evidence, right? You already know that when you sleep 8 hours instead of 6, how much better are you at your job? I think we all know the answer, right? You're more patient. And it's interesting because you are better in a way that's hard to describe. The way that I hear a lot of my clients talk about it is they say, yeah, when I sleep, I just feel more like myself. And yourself is someone who's productive and great. When you don't sleep, the world feels challenging. So that is probably the best takeaway from this from this podcast, is just to remember that when you take care of yourself, you can give infinitely more to everybody around you. And don't get me wrong, there's a time for short-term sacrifice, but short-term sacrifice is a day, 2 days. Not, oh, hey, all our other nurses, are off. So like for the next 3 months, you're going to have to take on the brunt of it. No, let's set some boundaries, right? And part of that, again, veering way off my notes, part of that is honestly getting permission. And I know that sounds funny. Getting permission. What do you mean? I'm a grown woman. I don't need permission. Well, sometimes I found that clients do feel like they need permission. Here's what I mean. They feel like if they make the decision on their own, they feel the guilt. They feel like, yeah, I shouldn't be doing this. But if a coach tells them what I just told you, and hey, this is what you need to do, not only to get everything that you want, but to be able to feel the way that you want to feel, they start to do it. They get permission. They give themselves permission. They don't get permission from me, but it's somehow the words I say give themselves the permission to do this. So if you are listening out there, whether you're a client of mine or not, do it. Prioritize yourself, because I promise you that you will be able to impact others so much more profoundly in ways that are hard to even quantify. Like it's hard to quantify. I remember hearing this quote when I was younger. People don't remember in 5, 10, or 15 years what you said. They just remember how you made them feel. And when you sleep and when you take care of yourself, you feel better. And you generally have better experiences with other people. You could say the same words, but you're conveying them in a different way because you feel good on the inside, right? And when that happens, you can really make a big impact on people, one that's unquantifiable. It's one that it's the reason that I feel like, I'm still getting messages from my clients back in 2017 when I started all this. Oh no, 17, my God, no, 2012 oh my God, no, 2010. Yeah, 2010 when I became a coach. Still getting messages from people, even from my first gym, that, I can't even remember a lot of interactions I had, but there was definitely a way that they felt and why they're always like, oh man, nothing was like that gym. Nothing was like those experiences. So you can have that same impact on people. So align your new self, your new needs, prioritizing yourself by knowing that you're going to be able to give more to other people. And then you can reshape your current belief structures. And there was a book that I was going to recommend, but I'm going to be honest. I remember it from a long time ago, And I can't remember if I read it or if I just read the Spark Notes. So I can't really recommend the book, but there was a book that seems like it could be a good fit, but take this with a grain of salt. It's called The Power of No. Because one of the things that Patty had asked is, the nurses I know, including myself, overcommit constantly to help others and feel guilty when we don't meet others' expectations. So imagine if you could just feel good enough to say, no, I'm not going to do that. Ooh. And the book's called The Power of No. And the idea is to help you form new beliefs by connecting. Actually, we already talked about the massive pain, but the idea is to form new beliefs and to get the confidence, the understanding, and the aligned belief structure that by saying no, you can potentially either align with your current beliefs and help more people, or just be able to reach your ideal outcome of what you want. So I'll put a link to that below if you want to check it out. It's like a 4-minute book. It's a 4-minute book summary where you can check it out. I was reading it. I feel like it could be applicable, but that might be hit or miss. But we've already been talking 20 minutes. Hopefully this benefited you in some way. I know that sometimes my ramblings can be beneficial. Sometimes, I've been told, man, you missed the mark. So let me know if you're listening to this on Facebook. Drop a comment below. Let me know if this was helpful at all. If you're listening to this on Spotify, on podcast, leave a review with a question, or even I think there's a poll function where you can leave a comment. Let me know about that. And let me know also if you're watching this on a recording, what are some questions you have? What are some things that you're struggling with? What do you want to be able to fix for good? And if there's anything that maybe I can leave you with, it's just an empowering belief for you that no matter where you are, you can get to where you want to be. So one more time, no matter where you are, you can get to where you want to be, regardless of the evidence that supports the antithesis of that from your past. Meaning that no matter how many times you've tried and failed, no matter how many times that you've told yourself, you've got yourself all riled up, okay, this time's going to be different, and then it's not. And you've essentially been conditioned to believe that the next thing will not work, so why even try? What I'm here to tell you to say is, don't let that belief structure stop you from becoming your ultimate self. The self that can help, that can touch every life that you come in contact with, not just your family, but as an RN, right? Not just patients, but coworkers. Don't let the failures of the past, and we shouldn't even call them failures, right? Because maybe that's where the pain comes from. Maybe we can call them learnings. Everything that you've tried, and maybe hasn't gotten you to the mark, or maybe it's gotten you to the mark, but you haven't been able to sustain it. That's been an opportunity to learn. Those are learnings, right? And you either win or you learn. And I remember this is from Tony Robbins. He says, when in doubt, if you don't get to your goal, if you try something, you don't get to your goal, the formula is simple. Try something else. And if when you try something else, you don't get what you want, try something else again. And then if you try something else and you still don't get what you want, you do something else. And then if you still don't get what you want, you try something else. And if you still don't get what you want, you try something else. But then after all that, if you still don't get what you want, you try something else. Magic formula. And if you think about that, we apply that to something as fragile as children. Think of a baby. When you're teaching a baby how to walk, or they're learning how to walk, and they get up the first time and they fall, do you go over and you're like, well, hey, you gave it a good shot. Well, I guess you're just not meant to walk. See ya. Just stay still on the ground. It's safer. No. They try again, they fall. They try again, they fall. They probably try to stand up and fall hundreds and hundreds of times before they can walk successfully. Maybe thousands. Have you tried? hundreds or thousands of times to be able to get to where you want to be? Probably not. And that's okay. What I would advise you to do is let's start acting like a kid again. That childlike curiosity where we fail and we just learned. Well, tried this way, it didn't work. Well, let's do the next thing. Where we get messed up as adults is we feel shame. Oh, man, I tried this thing and it didn't work, and that means that I'm bad. Instead of saying the thing was bad, right? This is why we are at war with the majority of other fitness programs, weight loss programs that are out there, because they promote guilt, where it's, here's your fitness, here's your nutrition, I'm going to keep you accountable. Cool. Stress happens, you fall off the wagon, and then they're pretty much there to say, well, don't you want this? It's super fucking frustrating. I hate that, because every time that happens to somebody, they are being taught that the problem is with them and not with the thing they're doing. And I get emotional thinking about this, because this is where my mom was at. You know, I was 15 and my mom struggled with weight loss for like 15 years. This is actually why I became a coach, because my mom struggled with weight loss, and, you know, she was too shy to go with a personal trainer. And actually, that's a little bit of a stretch, because she actually worked with trainers and failed, and the trainer sucked. And I say he sucked, like, look, he was fine with fitness and nutrition, but the majority of trainers, coaches don't have an understanding of fundamental psychology and how to really change people, behavioral psychology. So she struggled, and she kept the extra 30, 40 pounds in her frame for pretty much my whole life. I didn't know her fit. I never knew her fit. It was just, this is my mom. And then when I was 15, I was like, I'll train you. And I had no idea what to do. So the story goes, we worked together for 3 months. I was having her like do all this crazy stuff that I just read in magazines, and like, you know, she kept doing the up and down. She would lose weight and gain it back. She gained, I think, like 5 pounds by the time 3 months was up. It was bad, but I became obsessed because I wanted to help my mom. And I started shadowing with nutritionists, physical therapists, gym owners, personal trainers, psychologists, and I just started to learn. And I got really into personal development at that time. Started listening to guys like Zig Ziglar and Tony Robbins, and there's one other woman that's a behavioral psychologist. Oh man, what is it? I'm drawing a huge blank on her name. But started learning from them from afar. And 5 months after I like really got a foundation of knowledge, my mom lost 30 pounds. And I saw how it affected her life. I saw how it changed her relationship with my dad. She was way more receiving to his advances. Gross. But like, you know, I'm like 15 at the time. But like, I'm like, ew, like take that somewhere else. But at the same time, it's like, great. That was improving their marriage, right? Like, I saw how she was more patient with us. She was more willing to go do things. Like, hey, she was the initiator. Like, instead of my dad being like, hey, we should probably go somewhere. It's been like 6 weeks since we've gone anywhere. It's like, we should go there, you know, as a family. Let's go to the zoo. Let's go play mini golf. Let's go do something. Let's go on a mini vacation. And, you know, I think that my the mom that I knew from 15 to 20 was different than the one that I knew when I was a kid. I mean, she was great. Don't get me wrong. She was always a great mom. But there was just something a little different after she lost the weight. And, you know, I think there's something to be said about feeling like your best self. When we really are at a place that we feel our best, we can give so much more to others. And I saw that firsthand, which is why I decided, okay, I gotta be a trainer. Like, this is what I want to do. And that set me on a path to learn so much about human psychology. Like, I'll be honest with you, I was a terrible coach when I first started, because I was the person I despise now, right? I was just like, you know, well, you gotta want it more. You gotta want them. You gotta want it. You know, it's like, you gotta stay motivated. And it's like, you gotta get to the core, right? You gotta get to the core of what matters. You gotta get to the core of what drives us, which is usually emotions, right? I mean, it is emotions that drive us. You know, it's survival. And then one layer up, it's emotions. And then above that, it's logic. A lot of people think they're logical, but really it's our logical brain always trying to support our limbic system and our emotions, once you can master your emotion, like not master your emotions, like control, like, yeah, maybe that's part of it. But once you can align these actions with your ideal self that also aligns with your emotions, you win. And that's it. That's all we're trying to do, right? And maybe solve some nutritional gaps along the way. So anyway, this was way too long. This was supposed to be literally like a 10-minute podcast before I go to the gym. If you've been listening this long to my rambles, I appreciate you. But hopefully this helps. Let me know if there's anything else that you want to hear specifically about just body transformation, or even about the history of RN body transformations in my story. Maybe I'll make a podcast about that, about kind of the origin story. Oh, that actually might be fun, origin story, because I just told you a little bit now, but maybe I do a bit later in another podcast. Cool. This has been great. This has been great. It's literally just me talking to a screen. This has been great. That's hilarious. I guess I love hearing myself talk, which, Charity, if you're listening, you already, I guess, know that's true. So if there's anything I can leave you guys with, it's just that you can get there. You can. It does not matter what has happened in the past. You can get there. You just need to try something you haven't tried before, right? You need to be able to create new belief structures. You need to be able to align with your emotions instead of against them. Stop relying on willpower and win. I'm here for you. All my coaches are here for you. And, you can do this. I'll talk to you guys soon. Love you all.